What makes a 10 out of 10 album? Number 1. How does this album affect me personally? Number 2. Does this album tell a story and is there meaning behind the songs? Number 3. Is it clear that this artist showed passion when making this project? And last, of course, does this album sound good? Please also keep in mind that this is my opinion and I can't really change that. So, Born Center by J. Cole, released in 2013, is one of my favorite albums of all time. It really explores a lot of themes of him coming to fame, and it also dives into things such as morality, ambition, and a lot of self-reflection in some of these songs by J. Cole. Now let's break down those 4 points I showed you earlier. Why is this album important to me? I think every song on this album has meaning, and they are just so well executed by J. Cole. J. Cole is the main producer on this album, and I love when the main producer of the album is also the main artist. I think it really allows the main artist to express himself, and it keeps him on flow with his music. And let me tell you, J. Cole did not disappoint when it came to production on this album. Not to mention the features on this album are flawless. This album contains many features such as 50 Cent, Kendrick Lamar, and Miguel, who all bring to the table exactly what these songs need, which are things such as hooks by Miguel and Kendrick Lamar, and of course, rapping by 50 Cent. Like I said in the intro, this album explains a lot of themes such as morality, ambition, and a lot of self-reflection in a lot of these songs. This whole album is kind of explaining his upbringing and success, and there's a lot of way you can see he struggles with this fame. Songs like Power Trip, She Knows, Runaway really explains how this fame has affected him in ways like in relationships, money, and how he still has personal flaws after his success. I think it really just paints a good picture of all the complexities in his life after having fame. I think this album shows so much passion. One thing I think J. Cole is really good at is making songs from the heart. All of these songs are pieced together by things J. Cole has struggled with in fame, and he is just so passionate about every one of these subjects. One song in particular is Villuminati, which is the first song of this album. This entire song really sounds like J. Cole it's almost like he's talking to somebody, and it is straight from the heart, it feels like. He really puts a lot of emphasis on a lot of these hooks in the song and a lot of these lyrics, and it really sounds like it is coming straight from his heart. Of course, this album is enjoyable. I'm sure you've heard a ton of songs such as Power Trip, She Knows, Crooked Smile, and probably a bunch of other ones. It's a pretty popular album. Obviously, J. Cole is in the big three right now. But I do think the songs with the least amount of plays on this album are the best songs. I highly recommend you go and listen to this entire album. I don't think there's a single miss. There are a couple songs such as Mo Money and Ain't That Some Shit that are kind of like shorter songs, but I also think they're pretty catchy and enjoyable to listen to. And there is some meaning behind them regarding J. Cole's fame. Like I said earlier, the production on this album is great. The features are great, the vocals are great, and of course the rapping is great. I think this album is just through and through a 10 out of 10.
Yo, MF
Food
Doom.
is my favorite MF Doom album. I know it's a little blasphemous because people love Mad Villainy so much, and it's regarded as one of the best hip-hop albums of all time. But I think this album is so important. It is very clever. It is very clever, and the names, the lyricism, obviously, that's what MF Doom is known for. And the production on this album is just a masterpiece. This album contains songs and skits. The skits are pretty enjoyable to listen to. They're very, once again, clever. And there's a bunch of production that goes into these skits. The theme of this album is food, and it kind of ties into different rap themes and subjects. And I really do think it is just clever. I'm sure you've heard of many songs on this album, such as Rap Snitch Knishes, One Beer, and Hoe Cakes. But I really do think this album is underrated. The production and lyrics, and not to mention the features, are great. Let's go ahead and hop into the 4 points.
I get no kick from champagne.
How does this album affect me? This album doesn't really affect me, like, personally too much. I don't think it's not really that deep, but I do think this album is just so creative and fun, and it's so enjoyable. So yeah, it doesn't really personally affect me too much. It's not that deep of an album. I just think it's so creative and fun to listen to.
I got this girl and she wants me to duke her. I told her I'll come scoop her around 8. She said,
Does this album have any real meaning? Once again, pretty similar to like how does this affect me? I don't think there's really like one single meaning on this whole album. I think every song in here has kind of a different like subject on rap. I think Doom was really clever here when making these songs because he kept it in a food type of theme, but he also explains different rap subjects. For example, in Beef Rap, he talks about beef rap, and it says beef because beef is a food. And then Rap Snitch Knishes, he talks about rappers snitching on themselves. And I don't know what a knish is or whatever, but I'm guessing that's a food. And something like One Beer. I kind of made this assumption on my own. I didn't really do much research on this song. He starts off the song saying, their alcohol doesn't throw me at all. I'm guessing it's sort of a thing where he doesn't like other people's raps, so he comes on here to make his own rap. And in that whole song, he's comparing how, new rappers are frauds almost. When it comes to production and raps, I don't think Doom ever fails to make sure you know that he's putting 100% effort into this. There's a couple skits on this album. I think there's like 3, and man, they have so many. The production is just crazy on them. He's taken just, even if it's a second long, there's just bits and pieces of different things that he just throws into that skit to make it a complete just production masterpiece. And not to mention the production on the songs as well, and samples he's used. I think One Beer has one of the most iconic samples of all time, and I'm sure you've heard it. It truly does take a genius to take all these little pieces and put them together to make just such a great song.
For none is as feared, none has as many foes as Doom.
This is probably the most enjoyable album you could possibly listen to. It is just so fun. It's catchy, it's really well put together, and me personally, other than some of the skits, I don't think there's a single skip on this album. You just can't get more fun than this album.
hit me. When the four corners of this cocoon collide.
Who would have guessed it? To Pimp a Butterfly is the greatest album of all time. And I'm talking for every genre of music. I know it seems a little basic, but I think there's a reason that this is regarded as the greatest album of all time. This album has many genres of music in it, and it perfects every single one of them, while also keeping a common theme of racism, stereotypes, and misjudgment. One last time, let's hop into those 4 points. If you couldn't tell, I'm white. So this album doesn't really have too much of an effect on me personally, but it really does provide some narrative on how some black people live and how they are commonly mistreated. That's kind of all I gotta say for this, because it really just does not impact me how it would somebody else. This album is not directed towards someone like me. I think it's pretty safe to say that this album has affected the black culture more than any other piece of music, period. This album is just such a historical checkpoint, really. Obviously, I don't have, too much of a right to speak on how this affects me personally, as you saw. but you don't have to be smart to see that this is just such an important piece. Many of the songs on this album give into the stereotypes given to black people. And it's basically saying, you're giving me these stereotypes, so they might as well be true. Because that's what everybody believes. Many of the songs in the album, Kendrick also kind of shares a way of relating to people listening and common things that happen in some black people's childhoods. Does this album have any passion? Yes, of course it does. Real quick, let me tell you about a song called You on this project. The song starts off with a repeated hook, but halfway through it turns into a sort of drunken meltdown. Kendrick is heard here using a drunk voice arguing with somebody. And this part of the song is just so emotional. You can hear the emotion in Kendrick's voice and how he really just said this from the heart. And every other song in this album is just pure passion in what he is making this album for. He's speaking on the behalf of the black community for the whole world to hear. Like I said in the intro, this whole album really just explores so many different genres of music and perfects every single one of them. It is just so enjoyable to listen to all these different types of music, kind of, and some even thrown into one. Like there's some songs have many genres of music just mixed in one. There's a lot of funk on this album, obviously rapping, and just all around, it is just so enjoyable to listen to. If you have not listened to this album, you need to listen to it. I truly believe this is the greatest piece of music ever. I have a couple more albums I would consider a 10 out of 10. I will probably make that video later. It's just this is kind of all I have time for. I would really appreciate y'all liking and subscribing. Probably going to keep doing this. I also have some gaming stuff in my channel as well if you want to check that out. So yeah, thanks for watching.